Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Brazil dominating Paraguay. We'll talk about Gregg Berhalter's job potentially being at stake with their match going up against Uruguay. We'll talk about the match between England and Slovakia. We'll preview that game as with Spain and Georgia. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the Tips and Donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it. And it also helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with Brazil dominating Paraguay and getting their first win at this summer's Copa America. For Brazil, it was a big game for them in the fact that, there was a lot of pressure. Number one, there was a lot of, some pressure climbing on them after that opening day game where they created so many opportunities, had so much of the ball, had so many shots, but couldn't find the back of the net. And dropping points to Costa Rica, which is unacceptable in the footballing culture that is Brazil. Results like that are flat out unacceptable. And there was some criticism falling on not just the team in general, but also some individuals, specifically Vinicius Jr., who I was very critical of, just based on the levels that he's produced for Real Madrid compared to what he did for Brazil, was not good enough. But if we talk about purely on today's game, he was absolutely marvelous, just sensational, the best player on that pitch by a country mile, especially in that first half. I mean, they could not handle his pace. They couldn't handle his ability to be direct, his verticality. He was feeling it. He even tried, it didn't work out, but he was trying rainbow flicks. It was just a complete all-around performance from him, a confident performance, an electric performance. You saw him a few times trying to get the crowd up and pumped. He was doing what he does best. He was talking trash, really just a classic Vinicius Jr. performance just in general. Was able to find the score sheet twice as well. Absolutely a brilliant day for him, who, by the way, in this game alone, he almost doubled what he's done for Brazil. When you look at the fact that he scored 3 goals in the first 31 caps. He had 2 goals just today in today's cap. So yeah, a great day for Vinicius. We saw Brazil, in terms of the level performance between this game and that game, Costa Rica, I think this was not as dominant, because Costa Rica, in terms of the run of play, it was just all Brazil. Costa Rica did not have anything going forward to threaten them. Paraguay, there was a few moments that they were able to threaten Brazil, with the Inciso, Almiron, and Bobadilla. They were able to cause them a little bit of issues in transition, especially after the first 20, 25, 30 minutes. Once Paraguay was able to settle, they were able to create a little bit for themselves. But then Brazil was able to find that breakthrough, and it just got simple from there. And Brazil had a chance before that to score a little bit earlier. Lucas Paquetá, oh my goodness, in my opinion, a really, really bad pen. Not only he doesn't hit the target, but the way he did the stutter, and then the no pace on it, no real accuracy, just a horrible, horrible penalty. Just looked so bad visually. He was able to make up for it later on, where he took the next penalty, which took guts for him, by the way. And he did the exact same thing, but this time was able to keep it on frame of the goal. And, hats off to him. That took a lot of guts, in my opinion. I thought Savio was really, really good coming in for Rafinha. I thought whenever in that opening game that he came on, I thought there was a little bit more of directness that Brazil had. A little bit more. I thought it was a little bit more threatening coming from that right-hand side from Brazil. I thought Rafinha was so stagnant. And I think Savio might have locked up that position, at least for the next couple of games. at least Copa America for Brazil, because I thought he was really good. He was able to get on the goal sheet as well. Yeah, overall quality performance from Brazil. They were able to move the ball around quickly in transition, play with the likes of the pace with Vinicius and Rodrigo. Rodrigo, even though he didn't have the best of his games, his pace and his ability to stretch out the Paraguayan center backs were really crucial in this game. There was a lot of space that he opened up for Savio and Vinicius Jr. So I thought Rodrigo also had a good game. That defensively they were a little bit shaky at certain moments, Brazil, in the fact that there was certain times that Paraguay was able to have a little bit of sustained pressure, but again, the real lack of quality, didn't make the pay. But if we look at it based on the run results, based on the stats, it doesn't look as one-sided as what the stats say. The stats say 17 shots for Brazil to 15 for Paraguay, even amount of shots on target 6-6, possession 55% to 45%. Not really one-sided in general. I think this game had a potential to really be a tight one after that first 25-30 minutes. But once Brazil were able to find that breakthrough, then I think, that's when that's when I knew it was eventually going to get away from Paraguay, because then Paraguay were going to have to open up and leave even more space. And that just like quick little flurry that happened in the last 10 minutes before halftime, again, like you give Brazil a little bit of an inch, they'll do enough to get through there, and that's exactly what happened. I think you play this again, I think it would be a lot more tighter, because based on the run of play, it was not as dominant as what the scoreline says. I just think Brazil were more clinical, and Brazil took advantage of a reeling Paraguay in that last 10 minutes of halftime, because then they were really suffering. But they came out in the second half, and Paraguay were on the front foot, were on the ascendancy, and they were able to find that breakthrough goal. And once they did that, they were, they made it 3-1. I thought there was a possibility that they could find themselves back into this game, because for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, Paraguay was able to gain possession. Paraguay was the one that was pressing up high, winning the ball high. Paraguay were the ones that were really looking on the front foot. But Brazil were able to calm down, and then, they were able to draw that penalty. And then once they drew that penalty 4-1, yeah, it was over from there. Huge win for Brazil, in my opinion, because now you find yourself in a position where you can go into that final game against Colombia, not in a desperate situation where you need to win just to move on out of the group. Your Copa America is not in danger in that final game, which is the most that they could do at this point, because of the fact that they dropped points against Costa Rica. There's always the potential whenever you're playing these second games, or you just want to make that third group stage game a game where you only need a draw to win the group. Well, Brazil, couldn't find themselves in that position after drawing against Costa Rica. If Colombia took care of that second game, it was out of their hands. They have to win that final game. But what they do now is they put themselves in a position, okay, now they can control their destiny in terms of winning the group. Now, it's going to be difficult. This is a high-flying Colombian national team that are now 10 games, I believe a 10-game win streak. They're on a ridiculous unbeaten streak. They're a formidable outfit. They're a team to not be reckoned with. And Brazil are entering that game with needing a win just to win the group. They need a win. A draw will not be enough. So, there's that element to it as well. But at the end of the day, based on today's performance, what they can control for today was really, really good. It was really, really important win. Dorvel Jr., it's his biggest win since he became the manager of Brazil. Beating England in a friendly, that's cute, but winning these sort of games in these international tournaments against these nations, these are the big games, these are the competitive games, these are the games you will get judged on. And if they were to drop points in today's game as well, I think that would put them in big danger in terms of in terms of a lot of things, in terms of the public pressure, in terms of potentially not being able to get out of the group. So big win for them, and it was comfortable at the end of the day. I will say Brazil do concern me in certain aspects, though. I do think that this team is a team that's a little bit fragile at certain areas of the pitch. Defensively, I think they could be weak. I think if you look at this, the totality of this game, there were certain moments that was concerning. I thought the start of that second half, when Paraguay was able to pull one back, and Brazil were, kind of getting pressed and losing the ball and at bad areas of the pitch, and really looking a little bit lethargic, looking second best to a lot of the loose balls. I thought, okay, this is a bad look, because against quality team, this is there's teams that'll take advantage of it. I thought also, Almiron, he was a big threat in behind that Brazilian back line. With the teams that have multiple guys like Almiron, real quality for midfield to pick that ball over the top, I think this Brazilian backline could really be get at, and they do sometimes lack that cutting edge in attack. Today it was there, but we saw in Costa Rica it wasn't there. And the crazy thing is, despite the first 25-30 minutes being completely dominated by Brazil in terms of the game, Paraguay probably had the biggest chance of the game, that Alisson had to make a really good save on a deflection, which is, those are concerning signs. They need to tidy up certain things. Now, at the end of the day, the most important thing here is the results, yes. But it is clear this is not the same Brazil national team of old. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, and we'll continue to see. Now they have a good test coming up against Colombia, and it's important for them to show progression in that game. And I really like to see how they approach it, how they approach trying to win this game. It's going to be a very interesting test for both teams. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Gregg Berhalter and his job security.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about Brazil dominating Paraguay and getting their first win at this summer's Copa America. We move on to discuss Gregg Berhalter and his job security. There's the U.S. men's national team. They have a big match coming up. There's no two ways about it. Going up against the likes of Uruguay in a game. I'm just being for real here. We can't look at it from an optimistic point of view. This is a game that they have to win to get Copa America. I think to rely on Bolivia getting a result against Panama is to even think that's, well, it is a possibility. I'm not going to go that far, but to realistically put your hopes there is a little bit delusional, and is extremely shows the desperation of the situation the U.S. men's national team find themselves in. Because, essentially, the U.S. need to beat Uruguay or they're going home. a Uruguay team that's looked the most has been the most impressive team at this summer's Copa America. For me, it's almost inarguable. They've been so good. Look, there is an element in the fact that Uruguay, with the +7 goal differential, having 6 points, it's very clear they will be resting players in that final group stage game. They will be resting players, especially the way Marcelo Bielsa likes playing, high energy, the system, all that. We're going to see some Uruguayan, some of the second Uruguayan team, it's just a responsible thing to do at this point in time for Marcelo Bielsa in Uruguay. But I will say at the same time, it's still a Uruguayan team. To get in the squad, you have to have talent. There's still going to be players with ability. And honestly, that just adds even more pressure on Gregg Berhalter in the group. But again, the USMNT, the problem that they find themselves in is a problem they created themselves. They're the ones that went on the pitch and lost to Panama. So at the end of the day, it is their responsibility. They have a right, they have a chance to right their wrong against Panama. They have a chance to right that today, or I believe the game is Tuesday or something like that. They have a chance to right their wrong against Panama, against Uruguay. They have a chance to make it right. So we can sit here and, give excuses talking about, oh, the red card changed this, the red card did this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, then prove it against Uruguay then. You weren't able to get it done against Panama with 10 men. Okay, it happens, I guess. Then get it done against Uruguay. Get it done against a potential B team for Uruguay. There's no excuses for Gregg Berhalter. There really isn't. There's no way the U.S. Soccer Federation can look at a group in Bolivia, Panama, Uruguay, and find it acceptable, find it not fireable to get grouped. There is no way. There is no way in heck. I don't care about Timothy Weah getting the red card. That was under Gregg Berhalter. Gregg Berhalter, he had a chance to be able to defend that lead, 1-0 lead. Once they got that red card, they were still able to gain the lead at the end of the day. This is a culmination of a lot of things, not just that game. I've been saying Gregg Berhalter is not right man for the job. I've been saying it for a minute. The U.S. men's national team hasn't had a single quality win since he's came in. And I don't want to hear Mexico. Mexico is one of the worst teams of this generation that I've ever seen watching Mexico play. It is the worst team, and it's the same Mexican national team that just lost to Venezuela. I don't want to hear the Mexican beating Mexico. That's not a quality win, despite how many times we were able to get it done. I believe it's 3 straight Nations League and a World Cup qualifier, a Gold Cup final is what. I really don't care. It don't matter to me whatsoever. When it comes to quality wins, we have not been able to get it over the boat. Colombia 5-1, Netherlands 3-1, England 0-0 that we celebrated like a win. Wales, we weren't able to get it. There's not a single quality win we have under Gregg Berhalter, and he has one last opportunity to get it done against Uruguay. Can they get that? And yeah, there's no way. I'd argue if we get eliminated in the round of 16, he should still probably get bounced, in my opinion, because I've always said he's not fitted man for the job. But my opinion doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's what the U.S. Soccer Federation think of Gregg Berhalter, what they think, because they're the same people, despite this new group coming in of Matt Crocker and whatever. Those are the same people that decided that Gregg Berhalter was the right man for the job, even with everything that happened with the Gio Reyna situation, which is, I don't blame, that's one of the few things I don't really blame him for. But the Giovanni Reyna situation, the fact that he was away from the team for a period and they still deemed him to be the best candidate to come back, it's just, I don't know, I don't understand at all. Huge pressure for Gregg Berhalter. There's no two ways about it. Because now you see you see people in the United States soccer media who have been, who've been Berhalter sort of protectors. Even them are starting to turn the corner and say, you know what, if you can't get it done against Uruguay, it's time to go. You have some of his former teammates saying it may be time. So this is something that the U.S. soccer community is kind of finally coming together over. There used to be a Berhalter in, Berhalter out. Now it's like all the Berhalter outs are screaming from the top of the lungs, and all the Berhalter ins are trying to wait for this Uruguayan game, but on the verge of accepting. Yeah, it's time for Berhalter to make his way out of this national team. And I don't know whether or not. Obviously, I don't know what the U.S. Soccer Federation are going to be thinking. They're going to look at it from an analytical point of view, as these, corporations always do. But at the end of the day, there's only one clear decision to make, in my opinion. But I've made this clear for a very long time. Now, as far as this game, I think for the USMNT to get past, and Berhalter to save his jobs, the big players need to step up. The biggest players. I'm talking Christian Pulisic, Giovanni Reina, Weston McKennie, these players, Tyler Adams, these players need to be huge for the U.S. in this final game. Huge. Tyler Adams, he's going to be necessary for closing up space in behind. The Uruguayans, they love running. They're very vertical. They make those runs in behind. He's going to have a lot of ground that he's going to have to cover, and he's going to be going up against a team with a lot of players that will be able to match the energy levels he provide. Christian Pulisic, with his quality, with his pace, he needs to be able to be very vertical, make that Uruguayan backline stretch it, because there's going to be space to play in behind. They play a ridiculously high line, which is also, one of the big reasons why Timothy Weah is a huge loss for this Uruguayan game. Huge loss, because he's the main U.S. soccer player that can really take advantage of a line that's this high. He can provide you the verticality. He has the pace in behind. He's clever the way he makes straight runs, diagonal runs. He has a good sense of vision. He has good peripheral vision. He has a good timing of understanding when to make the runs, keeping himself on side. He's the perfect player to play against this team, and he's not available for them for the U.S. So, who's next up in line? Who is the second most vertical, direct sort of player that we have? And it is Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic provides much more than the team, just that. But that will be very crucial in this game against Uruguay. I was watching them against Bolivia. There was some times that the two center backs were left alone at halfway line. You get some real pace and quality up top, and you get somebody to pick out that ball in behind, in midfield, or from the back. You have opportunity and space to really attack that Uruguayan defense, and you'll be able to generate a lot of chances and potentially keep that Uruguayan team honest from playing how ridiculous. Now, do I think they're going to play the same sort of way they play against Bolivia to what they will play against the USMNT and beyond? No, I don't think so, because they understand the level of quality that these other teams have, and I don't, but Marcelo Bielsa, he's a loco. He wants to play like this. He plays like this against all the top teams. So you never know. They will still play really, really high. Not as high as Bolivia, but they'll still play their high level intensity football, and there'll definitely be space in for Pulisic to take advantage of. I think this is a potential game maybe to get Haji Wright in instead of Balogun, because Balogun is more of a box sort of number 9. I think Haji Wright has ability to stretch a back line. He has really pace. He's very vertical. So that could also be an option for Gregg Berhalter. We'll see what he does, and he needs to get it right, because he is coaching for his job. There's no two ways about it. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will be previewing England versus Slovakia.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we talked about Gregg Berhalter and whether or not his job is potentially at stake in this match against Uruguay. We move on to discuss England and Slovakia. The Euro round of 16 ties will be continuing on Sunday. Yesterday we previewed the 2 games going on Saturday. Today we'll be previewing the 2 games on Sunday. We start off with England and Slovakia. England, this is interesting in the fact that England could have actually been taking on the Netherlands instead of Slovakia, which would have been really tricky and really fun to watch. But they're taking on Slovakia instead. It's really weird. So England, even they were through to the knockout stages, right, as the winners of Group C, but they didn't know their opponents till the end of the group stages because of how the third place teams work out. And out of the top teams in Group B, C, and E, and F, they were set to take on one of the 4 teams that have gone through as the third place finishes. So to do that, UEFA has some sort of mechanism, a grid per se, that they created before the tournament that determines which third place teams goes on to play which group winners. It didn't matter which country was the best third place team or the 4th best. It's really based on this sort of formula, this grid that they have. And England, they could have faced any team from Group E or Netherlands, but instead ended up with Slovakia, the third place team in Group E. That's really interesting in how the grid works. I just wanted to throw that in there. But now, by the way, Slovakia, they actually did not finish in third place. They were where did they finish in third? I think they did actually, no? Yeah, they did finish in third place, yeah. So, yeah, I'm confusing myself now. It's confusing. But now England, England coming into this European Championships on not the best results, coming in against Iceland. A lot of people ignored it because this is the England national team, and people were thinking they're just gonna kick on at the Euros. Really ignored that 1-0 loss to Iceland, and then they went on to have 3 shockers in the group stages, not based on results, because 5 points is underwhelming, but what's even more underwhelming was the performances. I thought in terms of general play, they were outplayed by Serbia. They were on the back foot for majority of the game. Denmark, exactly the same. They scored early goals in both games, and they got put in the back foot. They started getting suffocated. They started getting pushed back, pinned back, and they really struggled to play out of it because of how deep they were pinned. They looked second best to any loose ball in midfield. They had individual players that played nowhere near the levels that they perform for their clubs, and it was just really bad. I think their best half of football that they played in the group stages was probably that second half with Slovenia when Kobe Mainoo came in, somebody that can actually get them playing a little bit as a midfielder. But also a lot to do with that is also the fact that England were going against a Slovenian team that only needed a point, so they were content with allowing England to have the ball and just protecting the goal and keep everything tight. And Slovenia ended up getting the job done, and they're through. So I'm not I'm not trying to say anything negative towards them, but they were playing for that point. But hats off to them; they're in the European Championship round of 16. So, England are the big favorites in this team. When you look at the players that they have compared to Slovakia, they have there's not a single Slovakian player that would get into the England squad, which I don't think saying that it's arrogant or ignorant or whatever. I don't think there's a single Slovakian player that would get into the English squad, let alone the 11. So there's a clear quality difference between the two. But I think, Slovakia, they've proven in the group stages that they can punch above their weight. What they did that opening game against Belgium, being able to pull off that shocker, they've shown they're capable of this, which is why I do give them a puncher's chance in this game. I think they defend really, really well. I think they're coached really, really well. They have a good ability of knowing, when to really go for the game and when to sit tight. They have very, very good defenders. Skriniar is definitely someone who will probably get into the England squad. So besides Skriniar, I forgot about Skriniar. But they have very, very good, solid defenders. They have a good goalkeeper in Dubravka, who actually plays in the Premier League. As I said, they've shown that they can punch above their weight. They have a good ability of playing in transition. They pick and choose their moments when to go for it in a game, which makes them dangerous. I think in their loss that they had against Ukraine, I thought they actually played some really, really good football and had some really good moments in that game, and just it slipped up a little bit in the end because of all the pressure that was piling up upon them and a little bit of touch of quality from Yaremchuk in that game. But yeah, overall, Slovakia, they're not bad. They're really not bad, and they're worthy of being in the round of 16, and they can make this a game just based on how bad England have been at this European Championship. Some of their key impact players include Ivan Chernáns, who has 2 goals at these European Championship. They also have Lucas Haraslin, who is also a very good player for them. They also have Jurek Kuka and Ondrej Duda, who actually was big. Is one of the more experienced guys on this team. Now he's played at 3 European Championship. So their impact players. A lot of their impact players have experience. When you look at Dubravka, when you look at Peter Pekarik, Denis Vavro, Patrick Hrasovsky, Jurek Kuka, they got players that have experience amongst this team. Lucas Haraslin, there's experience within this team, and so that's a factor too. Some of these players are actually part of the team in 2016 that reached the knockout stages, where they lost to Germany in the round of 16, but they were part of that setup. Now, as far as England find themselves in a precarious situation in the fact that there's a very good chance, likely, we never know with Gareth Southgate, but very high chance that they will probably be entering this game playing a new midfielder again, like a change at midfield again, and it'll probably be Kobe Mainoo who comes in and replaces Gallagher, just based on how they performed in the second half, how he can he can make this team a proper footballing midfielder. He has ability to pick a pass. He's comfortable on the ball. He gets them playing. He gets them playing proper football. It doesn't make it a very pragmatic team. I think he's more of a natural midfielder than Trent, and Gareth Southgate wanted Trent to be that sort of guy, but Trent is not naturally, he's not comfortable receiving the ball off of back line and turning around and taking advantage of space that is in midfield. That's not the sort of player he is. He is a right back that has a brilliant ball on him that can pick out a pass. But to pick out a pass, he has to be facing the goal, and his game is not really, picking up a ball off a back line and being a register sort of midfielder. He's never been that. If he had that kind of ability, he would have played there from the beginning. There was a reason why he is playing as a right back, because he has certain qualities, which is whipping in a ball or picking out a pass, and you could do that from the right back position. He has a magisterial right foot. He also has set pieces. So I definitely think He should be in the lineup, but if you're gonna play him, you either play him at right back or you don't play him at all. You don't just try to fit him in there just because, or you use him in some sort of clever way. The way Steve Clark he tries to use Tierney and Robertson, having one guy's a left center half or left wing back. Now, England, they can't do that because that's playing very, very pragmatic, and England have too much quality to do that, and they can't switch it just because of Trent. Okay, then you can go see what Ronald Koeman does to try to fit in Dumfries and Frimpong. He plays Dumfries at right back, and he plays Frimpong in a little bit of an advanced right midfielder sort of role, right midfielder, right winger sort of role. I think Trent is capable of doing that, but don't put Trent in midfield and expect him to play the role of Calvin Phillips, as you would say. That's not Trent's game. And so yeah, but going back to Kobbie Mainoo, you got Kobbie Mainoo who's going to be playing more likely than not starting his first game at a major tournament in a knockout stage game. This is a bad time to really test it out. Now it's not against the strongest opposition in Slovakia, but you're going to be playing a guy in his first start at an international competition in a knockout stage game. And I think it's interesting what lineup he goes with. Phil Foden, whether or not he will be 100% available. He is back in the England setup, but he did have to go back to England. Whether or not that makes it a little bit, his position in the squad, shaky. How does he fit, the players in there? I heard some talks about Bellingham being dropped. Don't think that's necessarily the answer. I think you do need to try to get Cole Palmer in there, because every time Cole Palmer touches the ball, it just seems like he's a factor to do something. He has a wonder goal on him. He has ability to create for his teammates. His goals and assist contributions speak for himself. But do they have a manager clever enough to make it fit? No, they don't. Now, I don't think, I think they'll be able to scrape past Slovakia 1-0, 2-0 on unimpressive fashion, just because of the sheer quality that they have and their ability to do it in individual moments and play very boring, dull football like they've done at these European Championship. But against a team, a half-decent side that has some quality going forward, I think England will be in trouble very, very soon. And I don't see them going past farther than this, but I do see them winning this game 1 or 2-0, something of that sort. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will be previewing Spain versus Georgia.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we talked about England versus Slovakia. We move on to preview Spain versus Georgia. In my opinion, probably one of the most one-sided knockout stage games in terms of quality that I've seen in a very, very long time, because I don't want to disrespect them by any means, but Georgia, they did well for themselves qualifying for this tournament. You go back to their qualifiers, European Championship qualifiers, they finished second to last. They finished below Norway, a team that didn't even reach the European Championship. They finished below Scotland by like 9 points, a wide margin. A Scotland team that got bounced last place in the first round, and they got in through the Nations League sort of initiative. The Nations League qualifier, last-ditch pathway. And hats off to them. They got in through penalty shootout. And they do have players like Kravitz-Kelia will be a player. The thing is, Georgia as a team, they're not as strong as Slovakia in terms of, the 11, the squad and all that. But I will say Georgia do have players that can get into that, Spain 11, let alone the squad. Kvaratskhelia, I think he has the quality to get into that Spanish 11. I really think he does. Their goalkeeper would definitely start over Unai Simon. There's no even conversation. Mamardashvi. I purposely said Georgia goalkeepers because I do not want to pronounce it. But Dashvi, I'm gonna just call him Dashvi. He will be, he had a brilliant season for Valencia, and he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He would start in that Spanish national team. No two ways about it. He would start over Unai Simon. Unai Simon is a mistake waiting to happen. But and by the way, he came out with some comments that were really really confident. He said Kvaratskhelia is better than all of Spain. I think he meant to say all of Spain's players, which, wow, that's a big thing to say. He also talked about how there's no fear of Spain, which there shouldn't be. They reached this point. This is the first time that they've played knockout stage. No, this is the first time that they played football, period, at a major international tournament, and they've went on to qualify for the knockout stages. Very, very impressive from them. There's no two ways about it. That is really impressive. But you're taking on a Spanish national team that has had very good form at these European Championships. They've been very, very good. They're the only team that I believe finished perfect in the group stages. So it says that they were able to rest all their key players and still take care of an Albanian team that, in my opinion, probably has more quality as a whole than this Georgian team. Does have more quality as a whole than the Georgian team. Now, Georgia, for them to win this game, they have to keep it compact and make it a transition game. They have to keep it compact in terms of, limit any space that Spain has on the attack, and then in transition, play through the likes of Miko Tutse and Kvaratskhelia, play through them, and they're going to be very essential playing in transition because they're going to be alone up there. So their ability to retain the ball is going to be very important to eliminate some of the pressure of Spain. But Spain, I see this kind of game, they're going to have 80% possession of the ball, 75% possession of the ball. That's the kind of game I see here, because they're going to bring in the likes of Rodri, Fabian Ruiz, Pedri. They're all going to be back for this game. And yeah, they're going to be by the way, Rodri, he served his yellow card suspension in the Albanian game, by the way, for people who are wondering. So he will be available. So they're going to bring in Rodri, Pedri, and Fabian Ruiz, and they're going to have so much control of the ball. They will pass the ball to death in this game. Spain, they're going to have so much of the ball just because they have the ability to retain the ball, much better ability to retain the ball than Georgia. So, it's important for Kvaratskhelia and Mikotadze to be some sort of outlet for Georgia to, at certain times, I say play in transition, but they're not going to be able to really threaten the Spanish back line all the time. But, there will be certain times in the game that it'll just be important if they can just retain the ball. If they can just able to keep the ball, find spaces that they can keep the ball and, bring in a player just to, just to stove off the pressure just a little bit, because that's going to be very important too, they don't need to have the mentality that every time they get the ball back to go for a goal, because, that will play into Spain's hands, because that will make it easier for Spain to get the ball back and then re-go again. Sometimes they just need to be able to, keep their back to goal and just really be able to retain the ball and really get the Georgian players a little bit further upfield, because they can't get sucked in for 90 minutes. Now, Spanish national team, in past, these are some they found it tricky being able to break down opposition, especially in these knockout stage games. Going back to that World Cup against Morocco, and then going back to that round of 16 in 2018 too, when they took on Russia. Very similar games in the fact that they had so much of the ball, they were able to pass the ball around, but they lacked that real cutting edge. And it seems like the Spanish national team hasn't suffered from that. You look at opening game, they were very clinical. They didn't even have that much possession, but they were still clinical of the opportunities they had, and they had real cutting edge. Against Italy, we saw a little bit of a lack of cutting edge, but there's a lot of clear-cut opportunities that they made. They just couldn't find the back of the net, and then they ended up getting lucky through an own goal. And then that last game against, we can't really judge it because none of those players that played in that last game against Albania will be playing against Georgia. None of those players. Maybe Aymeric Laporte, and that's about it. So yeah, it's just important. They need to, the cutting edge needs to be there for Spain. And Georgia's biggest hope is just keep it 0-0 as long as they can, really, and try to nick one in transition or play for pens. That will be their biggest opportunity. But for Spain, I think it really comes down to if they can find that breakthrough. If they can find that breakthrough early, marvelous for them. But because the longer it turns 0-0, the worse it is, because the more pressure that will grow amongst the Spanish players, because then it's a real test. This is the first time they've been tested like this at this European Championship, and for it to come out of knockout stage, that's going to be really, really a big test for them. So the more it stays 0-0 longer, but if they're able to find that breakthrough, if they're able to find that create that, opportunity, or maybe they even get lucky through some sort of deflection, a set piece opportunity, they win a penalty or some sort, and they can just find a way to get the ball in the back of the net, I think it completely makes it easy for it. It uplifts a lot of pressure, and it will make it smooth, and then Spain can really put the pounding on Georgia. But if Georgia are able to keep it tight, keep it compact, and really defend their goals for their life, they have a goalkeeper that will be able to make that save that he's not supposed to make. They do have that going for themselves. Maybe they can make it interesting. Maybe they really could make it interesting. I don't know. I find it difficult because the quality level between the teams is just a massive gap. It really is a massive gap. Again, Georgia, this is the first time that they've ever been playing at a major international tournament, and they're in the knockout stages. That's marvelous for them, but it just shows, the quality is not at this level, and I'm not trying to really seem disrespectful or anything of that sort, but it is what it is. I think at the end of the day, I think it'll be comfortable for Spain. I think they'll be able to find that breakthrough early. I think the verticality of Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal will be perfect to break down this, tight defense that I think Georgia will deploy. I think it takes one moment to break them down, and then once it breaks them down, I think everything from there on will be comfortable for Spain. So I'll go 3-0 for Spain. I think it'll be a comfortable victory, but we'll see. It'll be it could get interesting. It really could. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before the break, we discussed the Spain-Georgia game. We move on to react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. there's a interesting news going on regarding the Argentina-Chile coaching situation for their final game. So Argentina-Chile, they took on each other at the Copa America a few days ago. You remember Argentina were able to get that 1-0 win. But Scaloni and Gareca, Argentinian coach, Peruvian coach, he's also Argentine, by the way, they are ruled out for Argentina's final game, as they have both been suspended for the situation by Conumble, because they had a delayed return to the pitch after halftime. Conumble actually has a rule book, and in Article 104 and 145 of the Copa America rulebook, it states that teams must be present on the field in time for kickoff after the halftime break. This is what Conumble said. If the players of a team appear on the field later than the scheduled time for the start or resumption of the game, or disobeys the referees or match delegates' instructions, the responsible association may be sanctioned by Conumble disciplinary bodies with a warning for a first offense and a fine for second or subsequent offenses. La Albiceleste was actually issued a $15,000 fine as well. Yeah, I don't know. Ricardo Gareca, who was also suspended for a delayed return. By the way, hold on. Before I say that though, Samuel, Argentine assistant coach, came out in a statement, because he's been doing the pressers. He is a little bitter about the situation because we consider ourselves a correct coaching staff. In these 6 years, we almost never had this type of sanctions, but it's normal for him to be bitter. He wanted to be with the team tomorrow, said Samuel. Ricardo Gareca, he was also suspended for the delayed return to the pitch. Chilean assistant Sergio Santin said in his pre-match press conference, Ricardo was on his way to the press conference when we received the official Conumble communication about the suspension for one match. He returned to the hotel and we tried to resolve it, which is why we are here. Yeah, that's a confusing situation. I don't know. I've never seen that before. So, but yeah, they'll be both suspended. By the way, Lionel Messi, is also ruled out for Argentina's final game. He had a problem in his last game, a little bit of an injury concern. He's now 100%. So it seems like more of a rest rather than injury. But he will not be available for the game. But, they have everything wrapped up. So it was not a big deal for them. They're going to rest him. Don't even think he's going to put on, be closed. Yeah, there is that element going on in that Argentina game. A few absences for Argentina. Italy take on Switzerland tomorrow, by the way, or today technically. Also Germany, Denmark, 2 big games. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Vinicius Jr., he scored 2 goals today as Brazil were able to get past Paraguay 4-1. Colombia was able to get a victory over Costa Rica to move on with 6 points, and it's a big win for them. Now they finished 3-0. It's a big win for them. They pat their goal differential on top of that, but also they put themselves in a position with winning this game that they only need a point in that final game against Brazil to win the group. They only need a point, which is the best situation you can find yourself in that final game. So hats off to them. They have guys that are playing. James Rodriguez, he's been playing very, very good football for Brazil. Luis Diaz for Paraguay, for Colombia. Luis Diaz, he's back to his direct vertical ways. This Colombian team is very, very dangerous. They're very, very dangerous. They dominated Costa Rica, and they're not a team to be reckoned with. They controlled a lot of the possession of the game, and they looked very dynamic in key areas of the pitch, and it was the support that Colombians have in America is really remarkable. So much support that they have in the stadium. They also, Colombia, it shouldn't surprise us. They played against the U.S. in D.C. and they outnumbered U.S. fans. So, the team, the fans show up for Colombia. They really do. And they have some sort of home field advantage at these European Championships, at this Copa America, which really makes them a really deadly team and a team not to be reckoned with. It really does. Ziyech, he has made his move from Galatasaray permanent. He was originally loaned from Chelsea, but now on a free transfer, he has permanently made the move to Galatasaray. Nagelsmann, he is very tight-lipped on potential changes that he's going to make against an attack against Denmark. There's talks about potentially Füllkrug coming in for Kai Havertz. I don't think it's happening. I think there's some fans that don't want him out, and they want Füllkrug in because Füllkrug has been really effective off the bench. But we'll see. I don't see Nagelsmann going that way, but we'll see if he does that. Luke Shaw, he's close to playing his first match at Euro 2024. But again, are they gonna start him in this pressure cooker situation that they find themselves in? No, let's be real. He should not be in the squad. He wasn't available to play at all in the group stages. And if you're not available to play in the group stages, there's no way they're going to put you in a knockout stage situation. So I really think it's a farce that Gary Southgate didn't bring one fit, natural left back. Like, that's really a slap into the face to all the left backs that are English. Aston Villa has signed Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, which I did not think was really, as a Chelsea fan, I didn't think this was a possibility. I thought it was either Dortmund or he was going to stay at Chelsea, but Villa signed him for $37.5 million. I think that's a good move for Chelsea in the fact that they do already have two left backs at the club, and getting $37.5 million for a guy that didn't cost at all, someone that came up the ranks. Good move for Chelsea. Good move for him too. He's gonna go in a situation where he's gonna get playing time. He's on a Champions League team. I think this is good for both, the team and player. Joselu, he has joined Al Gharafa, the Qatari Stars League, after 1 year at Real Madrid. Went in, he won his Champions League. He made the big impact in the semi-final, and now he chases the bag in the Qatar Stars League. So hats off to him. There's a lot of what's going on, to be honest. The European Championships is the Copa America. That's the big thing going on right now, and it continues. We really are blessed that we get to get these two fabulous tournaments at the same time. Knockout stage is starting tomorrow at the European Championship. It's going to be great. Croatia, they have been fined $112,000 by UEFA for fan misconduct at Euro 2024. By the way, we've seen some CONCACAF at these European Championship. A lot of bottles being thrown on the field. I don't know. You never really see this at the Europe. You don't see this in Europe, period. Really, it's really interesting to see all these bottles being thrown and all that. But yeah, Croatia, they were fined €105,000, approximately $112,000 for fan misconduct at the European Championship game against Italy. The penalty is the biggest that UEFA has given at this tournament, and it's actually the second that they've given for Croatia. There was another investigation by UEFA going into potential racism between Croatia fans and Albanian fans. UEFA are coming down with the wire. Croatia, they were eliminated at the European Championships when they drew 1-1 to Leipzig. With Italy scoring in the last kick of the game. Croatia, they were fined for those issues. Rudiger, he's going to be available for Germany despite the hamstring issue that was reported during training. He will be available for Germany. Eriksen has stomach issues, but he's going to be expected to be in that starting lineup for Denmark versus Germany. Kasper Højlund came out and he made it clear. Georgia's Euro 2024 squad was actually promised more than 10 million by billionaire ex-prime minister because of their surprise win over Portugal. They have a chance to increase the money if they can go on to win against Spain. That'll be that's actually, I guess, another added initiative for them. So, there's a interesting conversation to be had there. Thank you all for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram for more content updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
I don't want to go to